Hello, everybody. We got the first quarterfinal game done. This ended up being a far more entertaining and close game than would have been anticipated straight out. I'm going to say this right up front. Team Germany, nothing to feel ashamed of. It'll be interesting to see how many of the players from this team are back next year. Because there's no relegation. Not that they had to worry about it this year anyways. But for Germany, they will be back next year. We'll see how many players are back. You've got to think Stutzla won't be available. Paterka may very well not be available. Reichel, who was not at this tournament, may very well not be available for the next one either. Some of the higher profile German players. So we'll see who comes up and replaces them. Now, the first thing to notice about today's game was that Borzecki's jersey was hanging over the German bench. He has not been able to play in this tournament. He's not the only German player who wasn't able to play in this tournament. So the question can rightfully be asked, so if the Germans had their full complement, what might happen? We'll never know. So it's 8 o'clock in Russia at the start as the start time for this game. As I mentioned yesterday, this is so that people in Europe and Asia are awake for this one. So, and they said 8 o'clock in Russia, and I thought, well, Russia can't just be one giant time zone, right? I don't know. But anyways, yeah, 8 o'clock for them. And so, yeah, nice to see fans awake. And they even said, they're excited that they're getting to see this game at a reasonable time. And the players were excited to be playing in front of their home fans at a reasonable time locally. Bugle looked sharp early. Russia ends up with a power play. They had one shot on that power play. The shots, though, were 4-2 for Russia at 6 minutes. And this looked like it might end up being one of those ugly lopsided games. Germany got a power play 9 minutes in, but it's 15 seconds into that power play, and the Russians end up with a goal out of it. Ponomaryov, knowing how this German power play works, he breaks. So he breaks, and on the breakaway, he gets the goal. Chistikov and Bardakov with the assist. Chistikov perfectly able to find Ponomaryov down the middle and in the net. So that's a shorthanded goal to open the scoring. And the Germans couldn't set things up. The Russians were attacking on every chance. The Russians were not showing a lot of respect to German puck handling skill early in this game. The Stutzla line was being shut down so far, and really the Russians did an excellent job of shutting down Stutzla and his line today. The Russians pressed with 3 minutes left. The Germans probably a bit guilty of hanging on. And so after one period, this looked like it was all Russia, that the Germans didn't have a whole lot to offer in response, which was okay. We kind of knew this is how things could go. And then in the second period, early chance for Germany. Askarov denied Stutzla, and Paterka draws a penalty. So this is their chance, right? This is their second power play, but they don't get a shot on that second power play. The good news for them is they got a third. During that third power play, it was better, but it only generated one shot. So they get better, but not enough offense. So coming into this game, keep in mind that the Germans had 8 power play goals in this tournament. Their power play had been great, but that was the 4th shorthanded goal they'd given up as well in the first. So in the second period, after that third power play was better with only the one shot, Bashkirov gets a goal from Afanaseyev and Gritsyuk at 8:27. That makes it 2-0. And at that stage, I thought, okay, now we could see the barn doors just open and the Russians score all these goals and wipe the Germans out. We've seen this in this tournament. The game looks close, then you get that second goal, and then all of a sudden, because the team starts to cheat the year against, you're getting more prime opportunities and you get more goals. And I thought the Russians really did their homework for this game. But Russians get a breakaway that just missed the mark shortly after that. There was a too many men call that then gave the Germans their 4th power play. More aggressive penalty killing, though, by the Russians. So again, not really showing the respect for the puck carrier and attacking the puck carrier. Very well thought out. Askarov then was sharp as the Germans were generating some chances and were actually ahead in shots at one point in the second period. A little bit of a flurry by the Russians towards the end of the second period got them the shot lead for the period, but I thought the Germans played very well. So third period, the Russians looking to shut it down for 20 minutes, and they keep talking about Igor Larionov behind the bench. I haven't really mentioned Larionov. Very smart coach, and if you need to shut things down in a third period, I would think he would be an excellent coach for that. But the Germans end up generating a goal to make it 2-1 for Russia. It's Elias with a goal at 3:24. So, right? Now, the interesting thing is that it had been their puck, they turn it over, and then Elias gets it back, It's considered unassisted, but Peterka was in on the play. And it was over the glove. Askarov was down early, and you started thinking, okay, so maybe the Germans can take advantage of this. They really didn't. But I'm going to say right now, Florian Elias, very likely to pass through the next draft. He was passed over in the last one. He has the makings of being a decent NHL player. Because the question gets asked of, well, why hasn't he been picked up? So he's considered to be small by NHL standards and not as fleet of foot as you'd like them to be if they're smaller. This traditionally is the player who passes through the draft time and time and time again. And then as an overager where he's allowed to sign, he'll get signed as a free agent by a team. And then 10 years later we go, what happened with this? Where did this guy come from? And it's interesting to me because all this guy does is generate some offense. But again, if you want to say, well, he's played with Peterka and Stützle, I agree. That's fine. But I think he's been good in his own right. And to me, he has the makings of a player who will pass through the draft, undrafted. He's too small. He's too slow. And all of a sudden you see him in the NHL because his drive and his compete level are there. So just throwing that out there. And it was a turnover, as I said, that led to that goal. Peterka then had a breakaway, which was denied. The Germans were pushing for the tie. Good game for Bugle at the other end of the ice. Germans were also blocking a lot of shots. So through the first two periods, there were 18 shots that got through for the Russians. I think there was over 40 opportunities at shots. So a lot of shot blocking going on by the Germans. Fearless play. Elias then gets a crossbar. So we're a crossbar away from a tie game. And it felt like the Russians started pushing after that being that close to the tie might have woke them up to, hey, we could blow this. We don't want to do that. So they did press. Then they end up, though, taking a penalty for covering the puck with their hand. And the interesting thing was that the defender that did this, the question then becomes, did you do it inside the crease or outside the crease? Because if you do that inside the crease, penalty shot. If you do it outside the crease, it's a penalty. So the referee was very clear it was outside the crease, so it's a penalty. The Germans go to the power play. Peterka took a penalty 39 seconds later to make it a 4-on-4. So JJ not happy about that. Bugle then robbed Ponomaryov during the 4-on-4. Askarov at the other end would rob Elias, just as the power play for the Russians started. So Elias, again, very good game for him. Germany calls a timeout with 1 minute and 20 seconds left. They also pulled the goalie with 1 minute left to no avail. The Russians move on to the semifinal. So we've got the first of 4 games done, the first of 4 teams in the semifinal, and it's the Russians. But kudos to the Germans for fighting till the end. You look at the shots, 8-3 Russia in the first, where this was all Russia, 10-8 Russia in the second, and both teams had 9 shots in the third. Final shots 27-20 for Russia. Askarov saves 19 out of 20. Bugle saves 25 out of 27. Like I said, they were both very good. Players of the game, Bashkirov for the Russians and Elias for the Germans. So the Germans go home. Or in the case of Tim Stützle, he'll be headed to Ottawa immediately. And for the Russians, they move on. Very good game, I thought, overall played by the Russians. You will notice no Amirov on the board. Amirov was very prominent in this game, just did not have the points. And for anybody wondering, did Podkolzin have his chances? He did. He had a nice wraparound opportunity that was stopped by Bugle. And he had his chances. But this was a very good game by the Germans. Lots of shot blocking. And their goaltending was top-notch. So there you go. 1 game in the books. 3 to go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding today's game. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.